right. So we are back with Kiki Knott's Cafe's Proactive is the Way. Proactive is the Way is a podcast brought to you by two sisters who dove into the health and wellness industry, one planned and the other by fate. We have joined forces to bring to you authentic conversations about our personal experiences as it relates to managing our health, working within the industry, and taking our combined knowledge to share with you some golden nuggets that you can take with you to live the best version of you. Over the next year, we will host 2 episodes a month, and each month we will focus on a topic that is designed to increase awareness of tools and resources to enhance an aspect of your mind, body, and spirit. Our topic this month is designing your life. Your fate is within your hands. What have you done or are doing to successfully create a life that makes you feel fulfilled and creates an environment where you live abundantly, in peace, with love, and oh, so much joy? We'll start off with a quick recap. During our first episode, we kicked off our featured topic for October, Design Your Life. Tiff and I got real candid about our journey in designing our lives, which, after reflecting, I realized that my journey has been quite the human jungle gym experience, where Tiffany's experience was structured and more aligned with her goals. The difference is that she was focused, she had goals, and she went for them. As such, she had an opportunity to be more proactive, and I was reactive. Now, at the age of 43 and 44, respectively, Tiffany is living the life she dreamed while I am still building. But lucky for you, it was in my wayfinding, which we will talk about later, that I decided to partner with my sister and create Proactive is the Way. I realized that without structure, mentors, and a compass, without being able to take a more proactive approach to managing my life, I hit far more bumps in the road than needed. So I want you to learn from our life experiences, the good, the bad, and the indifferent, to take on whatever endeavor you desire, leveraging all the tools and resources that we can provide to help you learn, develop, and grow. Our ultimate goal is to help you in ensuring your success. All right, so let's talk about some of those resources. Tiff, are you ready?
Sure.
All right. So today we are going to do a high-level overview with some of the resources we found to be helpful and wished we had in our purview when we started out in our lives. We will mostly focus on Design Your Life with Bill Burnett and David Evans, but thought there was a notable resource to highlight if you were short on time and just wanted to get your thoughts together. Jackie Penn's book, Choose to Change. It's Your Life is a book that serves as your guide to observe and assess your behavioral tendencies and then formulate a plan to develop within those areas. For example, blowing away the cobwebs. We all have a tendency at one point to become complacent. And Jackie provides us some activities that we can do to help reignite our flame so that we can tackle that endeavor or a new one. She also talks about taking small steps to overcome a bad habit or create a new one. And this is something that we will be highlighting next month as we introduce to you Atomic Habits. As it relates to Jackie and her book, and why we chose as our first endeavor to tackle designing our life, it was to give ourselves some sort of guide, right? So that we can continue to grow effectively,
Mhm.
continue to have a more guided approach to managing our lives. And Jackie, I think, while we're not going to highlight a lot within her particular book, I really liked it a lot. I liked it because number one, it was super quick, easy to digest,
Mm-hmm.
and it focused a great deal on individuals' behaviors.
Right.
These behaviors that you find that are detrimental, and it challenged you to look differently, at the way in which you manage yourself, in turn, or in hopes that at one point or another, once you have a level of awareness, you will be able to change for the better. And so this book, it really helped me. It really helped to put things into perspective about how I view the world. And Bill and David, they talk about that too, making sure that we take inventory within ourselves. And we'll talk about that a little bit later, so that we can think about what it is that we need to do to take that journey, or to take this journey of designing our lives until the day that we die.
Mm-hmm.
And so I enjoyed this particular process. The other bit, and I'm just going to stay focused here on Jackie's book, is I loved within the book how she tied in articles. And she tied in articles from different perspectives. And how often do we do that? Sometimes, we try and stay in our little circles. We try and stay in our little 10-mile radius, not really engaging people who are external of us to get
Mm-hmm.
a different perspective. And she was just really excellent at doing that. And then she also, her book is littered with all these motivational quotes, which, Miss Jackie, I'm about to borrow a few of those, and highlight them in my Monday motivations that I send out through Power 77.
She intended for that to be the goal. That was her goal. That was
Yes,
her goal.
yes, to get it out and have us share it.
Mm-hmm.
And
Because in one part of her story, her personal experience, and it's kind of cliche, but I mean, she put it in. She authored it as well too. If it doesn't take you out of your comfort zone, then you're not going to make progress. So keeping within a 10-mile radius, you may never see the success you
it's
desire.
stagnation.
Mm-mm.
Stagnation. Absolutely. Absolutely. So I like that. I like that she helped me to broaden my perspective, challenged me actually to broaden my perspective. And I think a lot of us need to go through that, because we just get so complacent,
Mhm.
comfortable, and change is hard, right?
Right.
Change is hard. And and you have to be willing to take that risk, to dig down deep and take a look internally and start to pull out all of the bad and the good, right? The indifferent ways that you may have, and take a look at them and try and see, is there a way that I can improve within myself? And I
Mhm.
know, woof, I know I have a lot of improvements to do. So
You have
um
to be that. Mhm.
yes, yes. So I just wanted to make sure that we highlighted Jackie, and the wonderful tool that she provided to us. Choose the Change. It's your life. You can definitely pick that book up on Amazon.com. And so I truly hope that you will think about doing that. So next up is design your life. And I have to ask you, Tiffany, when you think about some of the top self-help gurus in behavioral change, development, psychology, who comes to mind?
Because when I started off reading initially, I was choosing self-help books that were um had more like a religious um perspective.
Mhm.
Um and Joel Osteen popped into my mind.
Mhm.
Although he's a prosperity preacher,
Mhm.
a lot of the things that he has to say are are powerful. They're relevant.
Mhm.
He pops to mind. Other authors that pop to mind, they don't
Or
really for
just
me.
not even authors. Maybe they started out in just that self-help space as a uh, TV personality or a motivational speaker.
Mm. Iyanla Van Zant. Um, I like to plug African Americans when I can.
Absolutely.
I can't remember. Um, because it's so many. There are just so many. And then um oh my goodness. Let's
Jordan
see.
B. Peterson, right? So there's most of the individuals though that we think about are in that space, right? They
Mhm,
studied, they went to school for it or pursued it after, right?
mhm,
Even Oprah has an element of that within what she does, right?
mhm,
Dr.
mhm,
Phil, etc., right? Well, so design your life. I have two gentlemen, Bill Burnett and David Evans. And these two individuals, they were far, far from the world of psychology, the world of behavioral modification.
mhm,
These authors were actually in the world of science. And the idea was actually created, this whole idea of design your life was actually created when their worlds collided again after graduating from Stanford with their undergrad. Dave was a mechanical engineer and Bill was in product design.
mhm,
And so Dave ended up after they graduated from Stanford going to UC Berkeley. And he had encountered a lot of students who came to him and was like, I need your help. I need your help with trying to figure out what am I going to do after school. So he ended up developing a program called How to Find Your Vocation.
mhm,
And then Bill was at Stanford, right? He graduated, then he became a professor, and he now is the executive director at Stanford's within Stanford's design department. And so when their worlds collided again, they had an opportunity to talk about the things that they were doing, and they both decided to create a program called Designing Your Life. And this
right,
program was designed to help students find their path after college. And so today we are going to take a very high level overview of this program. And we're not going to go through everything. We're going to continue the conversations in our Proactive is the Way group on Kinky Knots Cafe's Facebook page. So I do have a presentation. We're going to dive into the details because it is a lot. It's a lot of stuff. All right. But this is why we do strongly encourage you to join the Proactive is the Way group to continue the conversations and get more information. All right. So hopefully all for those who are viewing via video can see the presentation. Can you see it, Tiff?
yes.
Okay. Hopefully you do see Designing Your Life Workbook. The first topic that we're going to discuss is mind setting, right? And we've talked about this extensively already, but really getting your mind right. And we'll go into further details here momentarily. We're going to dive into accepting where you are, because in order to know where you're going, you need to know where you are, right? And so we're going to talk about that. We'll get into some details there. We're going to talk about building your compass or making sure that you find that North Star, if you will, right? You want to make sure that you have that piece of guidance, if you will, so that if you ever get off track, you can get back on track. We're going to also dive into the good time journal, creating our Odyssey plans, building your team, and then, of course, trusting your inner voice.
Mm.
Yes. So we're going to talk about these are going to be our topics that we will cover. And I'll start with mind setting. So here we have a well-designed life is generative. It is constantly creative, productive, changing, evolving, and there is always the possibility of surprise. Now, David and Bill, they felt that mind setting was the first thing that we should do, right? In any given situation, anytime you're about to tackle a new endeavor, you want to get your mind right. And so they came up with a number of things that we should think about or do in order to do that. So, with mind setting, Tiffany, can you help me to understand what level of importance do you place on mind setting?
I place a high level of importance on mind setting. I think that it's important to take what we call a medicine, a timeout. And mind setting allows you to do this. You take a timeout to evaluate or be reflective about what choices or decisions you're going to make for something you want to happen within your life.
Mhm.
So mind setting, and definitely for me, is that time out. And I didn't complete the thought, but time out in medicine, for example, is like in surgery. Before they get started with your surgery, um, say there's 5 people involved in your surgery. Well, a timeout occurs, so they don't cut off the wrong limb or operate on the wrong body part.
Mm.
Um, we set our minds during those different types of procedures. And I likened mind setting to a timeout.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
So,
Taking that time to really clear your mind. Um,
right.
where right before it made, as you were speaking, it made me think about my yoga classes, where I really just kind of clear my mind so that I can get prepared to meditate and just let everything go.
Mhm.
That my body will be receptive of the movements that I am about to put it through.
Oh,
And
mm,
so it's yes, it's definitely that, taking that time out, making sure that we have a clear mind. Uh
it's
Billing.
kind of I like to liken things to real examples that people can see because they're more likely to remember them if there's something that they can relate to, of course. So like being at the foul line. So I played basketball all the way up until 2014, 2015,
Mhm.
kind of more organized. And when you're at the foul line, even professional basketball players do this. They get their mindset right,
Mhm. Yep.
that
Yep.
they set so that they improve their percentage.
Yes.
Uh,
Absolutely, absolutely. So Bill and Dave, they highlighted here, getting your mind right. They wanted to make sure that folks are curious, right? They are opening their minds, they're being curious, they're not being siloed in their approach to designing their life.
mhm.
They wanted to inspire them to try different things, right? And I liken this, Tiffany, if you will, to how you tried different things, right? You initially wanted to be a doctor, but you were very open. You kept your mind open and receptive to nursing and taking that to the level of being a doctor, right? Um,
Right.
yeah, so I
It's really at the end of the day, and fortunate for the profession that I am in, being on the doctorate level of my profession is very similar, if not nowadays, the same as being a physician and achieving the title of doctorate, although mine would be a PhD versus an MD. We got to the same place,
Mhm.
but just on a different pathway.
On a different pathway. Absolutely. The other component he talked about was reframing problems. And
Mhm.
I really like this. You know, initially I was kind of confused. I was like, what do you mean reframe a problem? And
Mhm.
he actually did really good with giving us some examples. He did it around beliefs, but because he did it around beliefs, it gave me a point of reference, you know, on how to do that. And so one of the examples that he provided was as it related to a dysfunctional belief versus how do you reframe that dysfunctional belief.
Right.
For example, he had one where he said, I should know where I'm going. Right. And from his perspective or from their perspective, they said, you know, that's a dysfunctional belief. Should you? Do you need to know where you're going? Or should you reframe it and be more of, or state, I won't always know where I'm going, but I can always know whether I'm going in the right direction. Right.
Mhm.
So that leaves it, I go back to what I had highlighted last week as it related to you know, giving myself grace.
Mhm.
And yeah, I don't I should know where I'm going, but I don't know where I'm going. I won't always know where I'm going, but I can definitely know if I'm going in the right direction. And here's the reason why I know I'm going in the right direction. So using those tools and resources to get unstuck in that dysfunctional belief. The other part he talked about was understanding that it's a process. You know, this life that we're going through, it's a process and it's okay. You know,
Mhm.
it's going to be challenging. If you know anything about processes, it's going to be challenging. You're going to have to go back to the drawing board.
Mhm.
It is a process. And so we should be open to and understanding of that. The other bit, asking for help, right? You're not alone in this process. The best designers that develop great design requires collaboration, right?
Right.
So,
Mhm.
yeah, and so often, and I hear this all the time, Tiff, and I don't know if you saw and I'll talk about it a little later when we get to making sure that you have a team behind you, building your team.
Mhm.
But I'll talk about uh, a, um, a Facebook post that I put out around that. You know, it was really sad actually, and it touched my heart. It really did. But I'm going to leave it here to the end. I was about to give it away, and I was like, nope, I'm going to hold on to that one because it was a really good one. For those who don't check me out on Facebook, it was a really good one that really brought the whole idea of making sure that we learn to ask for help
Right.
where we are today in doing so. So
And a lot of today prevents people from asking for help. I have lots of examples of that.
bingo. That's what my post was about. But we'll talk about it when we get to that point. Okay, remind me. All right,
Mhm.
all right. So the next part of this program, and I mentioned it earlier, we have to. Before we commence this journey, it's so important to accept where we are in our journey. And they talk about how when students are coming into this program at Stanford, at the door before they walk in, there's a sign that says, "You are here,"
Mhm.
right? You are here. And you're here for a reason, you're here for a purpose. But at this present moment, you are here. And that's where exactly you are supposed to be.
Mhm.
So we have to be accepting of that. And so, but we also, in acceptance of that, we have to understand where we are. And if you take a look at the quote, we should not be focused on where we wish we were or where we think we should be, but right where we are,
And
right?
that speaks to being what? Present.
In this
See,
present.
there it had the past and the future that actually play no part because the past is already gone and the future is, well, we don't know.
To be TBD.
Right, to be determined.
It really is
The
because
present is right where you are, yeah.
absolutely. And so I like in this particular section, it was so important that we take inventory of where we are today. And
Mhm.
they focused on four key areas that you should reflect on. And one was work, your work. What are you doing within your work? How do you feel about work? Play, love, and health. And we are to reflect on where we are with regards to feeling fulfilled or unfulfilled in these areas and trying to determine where are we in terms of balance. Are we in balance? Are we out of balance? Right. And so, and then also within this particular area, he wanted us to try to identify the obstacles that might stand in our way. And so, this particular exercise, I really like because I mean, it takes about 30 minutes for you to complete. Or they recommend that you take about 30 minutes to complete, but really take an inventory of your life and see where your strengths are, where you feel fulfilled, where you feel unfulfilled. If you had to look at your life in any of these areas right here, work, play, love, and health, what would you say is um, where you feel the most fulfilled right now?
Well, I think where I have always felt most fulfilled was with work.
Mhm.
I enjoy the work that I do and the impact that I have on others. Um, and then the other ideas here become intertwined.
Mhm.
Um, but I do want to develop, especially number three in the area of love,
Okay.
because I don't believe that I've had a genuine, authentic experience of love.
Mhm.
I was very lucky and very blessed, just genetically, with health, with additional youth.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you were super blessed and everything, really and truly. You stood in the right lines when God was handing out some of those gifts.
You
Because
said what?
I said you stood in the right line when
Oh,
it was those gifts. Yeah, because I mean, in terms of education, play, love, health, I even love, I think we shouldn't be short. We don't have to be short-sighted in love. We can think of all facets of love. Maybe you don't have love from a relational perspective, but maybe it's from and when I say relational, like, a partner, etc. But, your family, I love you, your daughter.
I love you too.
Yeah. So I like to say when I did mine, they had like this, this gauge, if you will. And I was like either halfway or all the way full, you know.
Oh, oh,
Yeah, yeah, I was really excited because I was like, ooh, yeah, because the work that I do, even the work that I'm doing right now that I call my little side hustle, it's actually pretty fulfilling, My play, I always try and give time for self. Anyone who truly knows me knows that I am not going to put my my desire to fulfill my needs in
mhm,
terms of going to a yoga class or I'm sorry, you guys. I know I'm boring, but I love grocery shopping.
I don't know why you think,
Clothes, but I
but
like,
you know what? That's from because you know so much about nutrition. So that may be exciting, right?
yeah,
Like
I really do. I like literally go down
books.
for no reason and just look at food and look at nutritional labels and yeah, and it is like the highlight of my day. And sometimes I take the kids, and sometimes I'm like, no, you stay here, but I like, and that's my play, honestly. It don't take much to please me, as you can see. And then of
I
course
think it takes
love,
much to please most people if they would tap into
which
what really pleases them.
yeah, versus following or trying to keep up with the Joneses, right?
Right,
Right. Find
exactly.
out what really resonates with you. But and then in terms of love, I was like, yeah, whoosh, that's been a mess from a partner perspective, right? But in terms of love as it relates to like my sister, my mom, my dad, oh my God, my kids, oh, they are so amazing, right? I'm like, I am all the way to the end on that. I'm fully fulfilled and I'm truly blessed to have, even if it's small, right? You guys give me life, and I love that. And then, of course, health. I put it at the center because I'm kind of going through back and forth with, what type of conditions I'm going through right now. But I have, I want to focus on putting in my mind that I am healthy.
Hmm.
Focus on putting in my mind because I feel like the more that I believe that, the faster my healing will become. And
Hmm.
I see it on a daily basis, right? And so accepting where you are, right? And so once we accept where we are, it's time for us to build our compass, right? Finding our true north. I said North Star. I knew I was going to say that, but finding our true north. Okay. And so at the very top, you'll see here, we're talking about the quote. I'll just highlight the quote. If you can see connections between who you are, what you believe, and what you are doing, you will know you are on course, also known as your true north. All right, so in this area, they talk a lot about building your compass and trying to identify what is the good life? Why am I here? What am I doing? Why does it matter? Why does it matter? What is my purpose? And what's the point of all of this? And within life design, it is a way for us to figure out our own answers to these questions and to figure out our own good life. So when I say that, you know, what's what in your mind is a good life? What are some things that you think about when you're like, this is a good life?
Things that come to my mind when um, I think of good life and living are financial stability,
Mm-hmm.
um, just quality life is being able to have balance between having a work life balance, traveling.
Okay.
Um,
So these
because
are some of
you
your
don't have to have all you don't because you don't have to have all the riches.
mhm,
Have
mhm,
to have all the riches.
mhm.
Those are some of the most happy people.
Right, right.
Um, but yeah, just being financially stable, being academically challenged.
Mhm.
Um, those are things that resonate with me as good living.
Okay. And that's good. So you I can tell that over time you have really found what um what resonates with you. Keep
Mhm.
using that word over and over.
Oh,
But
many times
it,
I was thinking of a different word and it wouldn't come
that's
to
the
me.
best word for it. I'm sorry. I was like, there's no other better word for this. But that really resonates with you. And that's in this particular workbook, building your compass. It's so important that you take the time to understand who you are, what you believe, what you are doing, why you are doing it.
Mhm.
And it's good because what I liked about what they stated is that you have the capabilities when you get off course, you have the capabilities to get back on course more effectively if
Right.
you know your true north. And so it was really, really, really important that, they take the time, and the students is what I'm referencing, or that we take our time to better understand our views on work, our views on life, and then not only understand our views, but identify the connections between who you are, what you believe, and what you are doing. In addition, it's also important to determine if your ideologies about work and life are coherent or not. And I'm going to give you an example. Can I give you an example?
Mhm.
All right. So, say, for example, you are an advocate for saving animals, right?
That would be me.
Now, you're not about to like what I'm about to say. But
Oh no.
the flip side, you are grilling steaks, frying fish, and
Mhm.
bashing meat every weekend.
Mhm.
Are those views coherent? And I would
They
say,
aligned. Are they aligned
yeah,
with?
yeah,
Mhm.
with your desires. And I would challenge and say, no, no, they're not. And when you're
Well, yes, they are. If I'm talking about cats and dogs,
talking about cow,
I'm not talking about dolphins.
I'm talking about whales and sharks. Possibly. I mean, I guess you could look at it. You can rationalize
We
that.
could break it down.
We can break it down. Okay, I'll give you that.
After all, this is my life I'm designing.
Bingo. That's true, Tiffany. That is so true. I'm gonna go ahead and you right. It is your life, and you shouldn't let folks change your thought process around that, right? But I brought that up as an analogy, right, to help you understand what I mean by coherent. Okay, are your views aligned? Because when your views are aligned, you tend to have a better awareness of and an appreciation for yourself. And when you find that you have the capabilities to clearly articulate your philosophy of work and life, you will find also that you'll even be able to make adjustments effectively. So, what I said earlier, when you start kind of veering off course, you'll be able to adjust your sails and get right back on course because you can always come back to your values, which is also known as your true north. All right. All right. And hopefully, in the end of all of this, you'll be less likely to let others design your life for you. Right.
Mhm.
Like you just corrected me. You like, yeah. Yeah, but I'm about to let you know how I view that, right? And that's okay. All right, fantastic. Okay, so let's move on to the next part of this, the good time journal. And I'll start off with the quote. He said, pay attention to the road signs in front of you and make your best way forward with the tools you have at hand. And so oftentimes we are living some component or some aspect of our good life, but we don't take enough time to try and identify the areas within our life where we are engaged and we have the greatest energy. And so he talks about making sure that we understand engagement, right? That we understand, do we have a low level of engagement in the things that we do? Do we have a high level engagement? What type of energy are we bringing behind the things that we do? Or is it negative energy or positive energy? So once again, making sure that we better understand ourselves, so we are diving deep, we're getting into the details of our life, and we're finding areas where we have the most engagement and possess the greatest energy around what we do on a day-to-day basis. We need to know what is working and what is not working. And I said earlier, I don't know if you remember, when I was talking about how you had your shit together and I didn't, but that I was wayfinding, right? They call this wayfinding. Okay. So wayfinding, identifying those areas in your life that engage you, where you can produce a flow and that generate positive energy. And so this is an example of one of three of the ideation processes that we'll discuss here today. But did you have any thoughts about the Good Time Journal? Do you journal?
So I used to journal, and I'm kind of upset that I kind of fell away from it. But the good news is when you show yourself how to do something, you can always go back to it. When you know your true north, you can always go back to it. So
Okay.
but I actually have started more now. I make lists. I make a lot of lists.
You're a
You
to-do list girl. Okay.
um, yeah.
Well,
But I want
and
to get
he
more,
would
I want to get back
encourage
to
you.
journal.
Yeah,
Mhm.
he would encourage you to actually take a look at that list. I mean, that's a form of journaling. We can all have our own style of journaling, right?
Yeah.
I have a calendar over here. I'm like, this is my journal. Okay. It's the same dang on thing every day. This process was actually easy for me. Matter of fact, like I was like, wow, I can remember all the way back like 3, 4, 5 months because my days are all the same, right? I homeschool the kids, I have the same schedule. And there's really no difference. The only difference is if I'm doing something for my business, right? But yeah, so journaling, yeah, it's a good tool. I would tell you, I tried to get started. I went and bought me a legendary journal. It was super cute, right? I was like, oh, I'm going to journal every day. Girl,
Wasting money.
wasted. I'm sorry, I wasted money. It was a nice, you know what it was good for though? Very similar to what we're doing. I put everything that I wanted to accomplish. And
Mhm.
believe it or not, that whole idea of when you write stuff down and it comes into fruition.
That's how I became
Yeah,
a nurse practitioner.
I swear, I said, now that's what it was good for. Now doing it every day, no, I spend too much time getting up, reading articles and things that I probably should focus more on journaling, but then I get into meditating, yoga, etc. And that just goes to the wayside. So you got to find what works for you. But anyway, so he talks about that. He talks about journaling. And then he talked about, and I'll bring this into the picture because with the journaling, he said, okay, once you've found out the activities that where you are fully engaged, have a high level engagement to the point where you are flowing. Have you ever had a flow state? Do you know what that means?
Um, no,
Okay. So having a flow state.
expound on that. Huh?
Yeah, I'll expound on that. So having a flow state is essentially where you lose sense of time, right? You're doing something that inspires you,
Hmm.
that where you have the highest level of energy behind to the point where you don't even recognize the time. The time just goes by. Have you ever had that?
Yeah, every time I'm on the Stairmaster or the elliptical.
When you're working out. It's funny you said that. Can I tell you, I put that too, but I have to be reading. If I'm not reading, I don't have a flow state. I have to like my mind has to be reading, and then that's when all those we talked about it last week. Boom, 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 boom. All these ideas start coming out.
Rapid fire.
The
Mhm.
fire ideas, and you like piece of paper, right, where we had to write it down. So, but yeah. So he talks about taking your journal and then doing what is called mind mapping. And mind mapping, if you don't know or need a better understanding, it's where you essentially associate words on paper. You're kind of getting both sides of your brain working, and it's something that should be done quickly. You shouldn't overanalyze when you're doing this. And hopefully, by the end of mind mapping, which is another ideation technique, you'll have a dozen of concepts that you never thought was possible. And he recommended within this process, spend about 15 minutes trying to identify areas where you were most engaged, where you had positive energy, or where you experienced flow. And have you ever done anything similar to that?
Yeah. In
You
my doctorate program, and basically all of the nursing programs, because it's a mind map you develop to learn concepts.
okay? So doing it around concepts, yeah. But
It's really called concept mapping, but
okay, but even so, that idea of mind mapping or concept mapping, I like that it's interdisciplinary, right? I mean,
right,
you can do this in your life. You can actually do this within your class, right? I actually did it around. I showed you earlier this week because you didn't know that I was doing this, but how May and Mo have their own Facebook page, right? And I was like, I really want to uh, increase or expound. I like that word you used earlier. Expound on their program because their program or their page is all about doing these excursions where they can learn different things. But I never had any structure behind it. I was just like, okay, kids, oh, I see Oktoberfest is coming up. Let's go, or something. But every excursion that we take, I want it to be an experiential learning experience for them, right? And so I actually used mind mapping, and when I did it, Tiffany, I'm telling you, this is genius. I don't know if you can see this. Oh, and by the way, they have a super cute book here. I don't know if you guys can see that. I know it's very hard to see. Woo, called Designing Your Life. But anyways, um, I did the mind map and I became a little bit more structured, so I put in the center experiential learning, excursions, May, Mo, and Aj is included in that as well. And then I broke it out and I was like, okay, the type of learning that I would love for them to do that's, not theoretical, where they're just sitting in the class and they just learning about stuff, but they don't know how to apply it. And
right,
like, I want to do it around money, history, art, survival, business, health and wellness, how to take care of yourself, paying yourself first. And then I broke off all these little branches off of that. And that was the whole concept of mind mapping so that when you do your mind mapping, you can get into the next phase of this process, which is, do you remember? Creating your Odyssey plans, right? And so the quote here is creating your Odyssey plans. It's all about designing many lives and imagining multiple ways that we could launch the next chapter of our life's quest, right? And so here they talked about, designing a visual graphic of a 5-year plan. And he didn't want us to do just one. He wanted us to do 3. Okay. He recommended that we identify 3 sketches of viable and substantially different possibilities. And hopefully by in doing so, we would be able to move forward, eliminate stagnation, eliminate redundancy and then of course, within each plan, we try to identify what is important to us. Okay. Um, he also talked about in this particular assessing the viability. Is this plan that we're about to embark on, can it determine our available resources? Are have we determined our available resources? Do we possess the confidence and the drive to pursue this particular plan? And is this plan aligned or coherent? Okay. And so talk to me, Tiffany. I know you have an Odyssey plan because I saw you leap from being a nurse into real estate, right? So
Yeah.
talk to me about that.
And the real estate part kind of just evolved, right? That kind of just evolved as I started thinking about, my career and how some things are not available. For example, like most of the nurses don't have a retirement because a lot of the agencies or organizations that we're employed by, it's a 401 k or a very weak um, contribution to our retirement, but most don't retire and retire with the amount of money that you make over the time of being a nurse, because we all know it's a lucrative opportunity. It's a lucrative profession, career, but you don't make near that or have that saved in retirement. So I watched and I learned. So that kind of was not in the plan,
Oh,
so to speak, but I was I have foresight. And so I thought, hey, the way that I work, because I've worked mostly as a contractor,
mhm.
what's going to appeal to my plans for when I retire. So looking at
So you did it from a retirement perspective. You're
mhm.
just preparing
I'm
yourself for.
always preparing for the future. Always. I have a futuristic mindset. I like to stay present, don't get me wrong,
Mhm,
but I like to look at the fact that we're aging.
mhm,
Um, and in this profession, unless you keep your health up, unless you keep your education up, you're going to age out.
mhm,
And you age out through actual age or through burnout.
mhm. Or
But huh?
or illness.
Right. Or
Mhm,
illness. So I like I said, I kind of just that kind of landed in my lap by watching my elder sister um start doing that, but also how I'm kind of driven and motivated. I'm competitive. I was going past a house every single day and I said, that house is gonna be mine, that house is gonna be mine.
mhm,
And finally in 2014, I hunted it down and I was actually in competition with another guy. And I said, oh, you can stop looking because this house is going to be mine. I pass by here every day. I'm going to get this house.
mhm,
And he was like, yeah, okay. Well, and here we are, 2014, I ended up with my first home. So after, I was able to do that. I had already been a nurse by then, for 6 years, and had enrolled into graduate school, and said that, if I'm going to go somewhere with something, I want to go all the way.
mhm.
I remember reading books by like Zig Ziglar, like See You at the Top.
Okay.
And that's where I wanted to be. I wanted to be the top in my profession. I want to be the top in my profession.
Right.
I want to be someone who contributes. And although I'm taking steps. I'm going to take my time now, even after reading from all three of these authors, taking steps, like steps how you have outlined here, is way more important. Will provide me way more quality than just doing it all at once. I
Mhm.
had this thing like, oh, I got to do it. I better have it done by. No,
Yeah,
it's
it
not.
makes it more digestible, right?
Yeah,
It down the way they've done it. I'm like, oh, this makes it so much easier
you take.
to, yeah, when you can take these steps. And I got to keep going back to that whole idea of understanding that this is a process.
A
And
process, exactly.
yeah, and
That is not
a marathon or
It's not a destination, it is a journey.
Yes, 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 exactly, exactly.
We're
Race.
taught that it's a destination, uh,
Hmm.
um, which is um, which is false.
Right, right.
Uh,
Yeah, and
so
it leads people to being stuck or over
you
processed to the point where they don't,
overwhelmed.
yeah,
Yeah.
overwhelmed to the point where they don't move because they're just like, oh, this is just too much, right? But when you have the capabilities to digest it the way that and um David and Bill helped us to digest it, it makes so much more sense. Like a no-brainer. Where have we been? Right. All
Yeah.
right. So they talked about creating the Odyssey plans, right?
Mhm.
The next bit that I wanted to highlight here is building your team, right?
Mhm.
So the quote here, all great designs result from great collaboration. Thinking that you alone are responsible for your life design is a misconception.
Mhm.
And, they highlighted the fact that in this design, when you are designing, it's so important, like great designers do, to collaborate, to bring in individuals who might be your supporters, bring in individuals who might be the players, your intimates, right? Bringing all these individuals in so that you can basically pitch your Odyssey plans to them and get valuable feedback.
Mhm.
Right. And so with building your team, they talk about engaging at least 3 to 6 people that you can tap into, you bounce ideas off of as you commence your plans. And the key here is that, once again, as I mentioned in the quote, you don't do this alone. This is your opportunity to get as much feedback as possible, the good, the bad, and the indifferent. And defer as much as you can your feelings about judgment so that you can take it all in.
Like when you think about the one percenters, so like Bezos, like Musk, like Oprah, like any of those people, Steve Jobs, rest his soul, Bill Gates, Melinda Gates. When you think about those people,
Mhm.
they've mastered collaboration.
Mhm.
Think about it.
Yep.
They have mastered collaboration to design their life. And the rest of us, the rest of the 99% have this false belief, these misconceptions that we're not supposed to have support,
Mhm.
that we're not supposed to ask for support.
Mhm.
And so what ends up happening is we never, our dreams never come to fruition because we didn't ask for the support, or we didn't know where to go for the support.
Mhm.
So I'm really big into establishing a support system. I have absolutely no, I think what kills us too in this society is pride.
Mhm.
Um, there are people who take advantage of support, and
Mhm.
I'm not talking about them.
Right.
I'm talking about people who are being intentional about making this world a better place through really good ideas,
Mhm.
through good inventions,
Mhm.
through progressiveness,
Mhm.
to see others succeed and that sort of thing. And so having the right kind of support around you. And I think we hit on it 2 weeks ago when I said, um, or you said about support. Mm, it just slipped my mind. I'm so sorry. Um, oh, whatever you want to be, surround yourself with.
Mhm.
So when you think about that, that's collaboration. When you look around, everything around you has a collaborative effort.
Mhm.
Bezos didn't become Amazon by himself.
Mhm.
And he took years to do that. That took him 10, 12 years to even develop that idea, right?
Mhm.
and now he's one of the most richest people in the world. But if you think about collaboration, think about now, like when you look at when you look at your credit cards,
Mm-hmm.
Delta and Starbucks have now collaborated.
Mm-hmm.
For every point you spend at Starbucks, you now getting
A mile.
a mile with Delta. So
Yes.
you can get closer to your dreams of traveling,
Right.
free airline tickets, everything's a collaboration. So I definitely think support building a team around you.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't build your team around you, you may fail. And we have a really good example of that. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but I just want to say with Kanye West, I don't know if you following that news about him.
JP Morgan Chase.
No, just how no. What happened with JP Morgan Chase? Good Lord.
That's another, that's another topic for another day.
He is in so much crap. But anyway, his team, you can build you a team, but I want the type of team that's gonna give me constructive criticism. They're not gonna be afraid to criticize something when I'm way off in left field. And
Yeah.
right now, I think Kanye, for me, is like one of the better examples of you build a team
Mm-hmm.
that's scared to
The
collaborate and team up or tell you anything.
mm-hmm.
And it's going to be to your demise.
Mm-hmm. That is so true. That is so true. Yeah, you don't build a team where you don't come and allow them an opportunity to provide you I call it constructive criticism. And it amazes me how we've gotten so I think it's this and I think it's so detrimental to our society. And I'm going to tell you, and I know you're probably going to hate me for saying this, but it drives me bananas when people be like, don't judge me. Don't judge me. That drives me bananas because you are literally telling me, literally telling me that I am not supposed to take a look at your situation, analyze it, and come to a logical conclusion.
Mhm.
You are literally telling me to ignore what you do when I am here to only want to see you grow.
Mhm.
And if you lack awareness, and I have been brought to help bring that awareness, why would you
Think that you're judging.
think that
Think
I'm
that it's a judgment
condemning?
or
It's a condemnation. That's the problem. So the problem is that people confuse condemnation with judgment. You
mhm.
want judgment.
And the reason why people stay confused, Toya, honestly, is because they don't have a command of the English language. They don't understand, they don't know definitions. They don't have a very broad vocabulary. So
Well,
that's why
that's not their fault because media does it. I mean, you go to what's that workplace you like to work out with? Even Planet Fitness, right? The no judgment zone. I'm
Mhm.
like, if somebody is doing an exercise incorrectly, I want you to take a look at them, go over and tell them that is not right. You're going to hurt yourself. Seriously, because what has happened is we've literally trained ourselves not to be critical thinkers. Why?
It-
Why would
that
we
is
do that?
Oh, you want to know why? I can answer why. It's a strategy. It's a control strategy. It's to keep people damaged. You just said it yourself about awareness.
Mhm.
People will stay unaware. That's why.
But we shouldn't be walking zombies, you know? Like
Mm.
we literally are becoming zombies. And I think that this is really detrimental to our society, which you are going to see pretty soon. The US is going to fall off. The US is going to fall off.
Well, I
And
hope I'm not here when they do.
I'm, you and I both. I'm like, where my next home about to be? No,
Mm.
but we really gotta get it together because we really are training ourselves to become this Borg society. And I said it last week. I know I'm a Star Trek geek, but we have really got to move away from that, and really challenge each other, because in our challenge, especially if you're doing it with good, positive intention and constructively, is to see your growth. What do I look like seeing you down on the ground struggling?
Mm. Why do I say that all the time? What do I say that all the time? Like, what do I look like? Want to
But
see
we've developed this gladiator games.
that?
I'm like, I'm sorry, Rome fell for a reason. Leave that shit in Rome.
Mhm.
Don't bring that here. And so it's very interesting that, individuals have that mindset. And I want to challenge us to build our team. And so this is going to lead me into my Facebook post. And I know we're probably getting way over time, but we'll be wrapping it up here soon. Um, but I posted the other day, Jordan B. Peterson. He has stated, he said, be careful about who you tell your successes to. Man, he said that to me. My whole spirit went out the door. I literally went out the door, flew around the house, came back in. I was like, girl, what did he just say? I was like, see, this is the society that we have created, where
Mm.
we cannot even be excited to share information.
Mm-mm.
Because if people understand how the energy of God works, if we're not sharing our information, how are we going to be receptive of the message that needs to be delivered to us for us to be successful?
Mm-hmm.
We literally are cutting ourselves off from each other, not being receptive, not sharing information,
Mm-hmm.
hoarding, so that we can no longer be progressive.
Mm-hmm.
So dangerous. And I said that before. I was like, this is dangerous.
It's a dangerous game.
It's a very dangerous game. And so when he said that, it just made me think about how, and I'm going to tell you, there was this one woman. Um, I was working with Tish, and she had called and she was calling about her child. And just out of the blue, Tiffany, she said to me, she was like, and you hear it all the time, move in silence.
Mm-hmm.
It was a random conversation. She was like, move in silence. And I was like, move in silence. Why? Why? Wait, are you talking to me? I didn't know what that meant, but she said move in silence. And I mean, I now I understand why she said that,
Mm-hmm.
right? I understand why she said that, because there's so many people who are crabs.
Mm-hmm.
So to go back to my Facebook post, I'm gonna get back to it. So he said that, he made that comment. And as he said it, right before his comment, I read articles in the morning. An article came across my screen, and it said, 1 billion crabs have disappeared. You know where I'm going with this? It said
No.
1 billion crabs disappeared.
Well, I know.
Was talking about how, if there was two of us, right, there's no need for one of us. If there's two of our design, there's no need for one of us. I was
Mm-hmm.
talking about the comment about Lauren Hill, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
that popped in my head immediately. I was like, well, dang, God must have made a decision that we emulate crabs better than they do themselves. So they ain't no longer here. He ain't got rid of them, because we got enough here walking around, pulling everybody down. And then I saw that comment with Jordan B, and I was like, God damn. I said, Lord, please. No, seriously. No, this is ridiculous. And I had to post it. I everything was like, girl, don't post that. I was like, no, I'm posting it. Because I just wanted to share that this is the kind of society that we've become. And we have to be careful, you know. I don't want to walk around pulling you down. I want to enrich in your life. I want to, did I just make a word up? I want
Enrich, no,
to enrich in.
enrich.
That's from Toya's dictionary. I want to enrich. I want to make sure that you have the tools, the resources, the objective advice so that
Mhm.
you can be successful within your life.
Right.
I don't want to bring you down because if I'm bringing you down, eventually what's going to happen? I'm going
Right.
gonna
You gonna
be the
fall.
yeah. So it's,
Mhm.
it's it's going to be a cycle and it's going to be a domino effect. Why would I
Mhm.
want to do that? Why would I want to prepare the next generation to be worse than me? No, I want
Hmm.
you to be better than me. You, my sister, I want you to be, I want to raise you up. I used to tell Tish that all the time, you know. I want to raise you up.
Mhm.
And I think that's what we need to, continue building teams. I think that's so important. And designers got it right. They got it right. We had to learn from product designers, right? The collaboration is a good thing. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. I'm sorry, you guys. That was we got on my
We went off a little bit.
went off on a little bit.
That's that's my tangential mind.
Right, but hopefully find value in that. The last point here that they talk about, and it's not the least, as I mentioned, we didn't cover all topics. We'd probably be here for hours on end, but trust your inner voice.
Ooh,
Here is,
that's a word.
isn't it? He talks about, and I'll read the quote first, accessing our wisdom center, where our well informed emotional knowing can help us discern better choices for us,
Mhm.
right? And so we have to become better at doing that. He talks a lot about, making sure that we when we trust our inner voice, we identify how our perspective has changed since we began designing our lives. What would we like to learn or know more about, or who can help us in designing our lives more effectively? In
Mhm.
terms of our developing our level of discernment, what personal practices can we adopt to improve our emotional state and our ability to discern more effectively? And then, of course, in this, always making sure we're ready because you said it, and I was like, oh, she's so good that you do live in the present, but you have to be mindful of the future. And so, what is going to be my next step so that I can get to the end of that 5 year plan and be successful? And then, of course, always making sure that we check in with ourselves, always ask, how is it going? All right. Any other thoughts that you wanted to add there, Tiff?
Just trusting your inner voice. That takes skill, right? Because you always have something that's battling you, and not to spend too much time on it, but accessing your wisdom center where our well-informed emotional knowing can help us discern better choices for us. The most important word in that sentence is emotional knowing,
Mm-hmm.
emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you power over the part of your inner voice that does nothing to serve you.
Mm-hmm.
See, we're emotional beings, but if we lack the intelligence, if we lack the knowing,
Mm-hmm.
not knowing what you know or don't know can be fatal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, which is why if you think about in this particular workbook, you have a
Mhm.
level of awareness, right?
Mhm.
Have
And
to.
so we need those type of things that build that, because once you know, and that's cliche too, you do better, right? But we need those kind of exercises. We need these kind of um I guess, for lack of better terms, opportunities to become more aware. Because we lack an awareness. And the reason we lack awareness nowadays in today's society is because we have been desensitized.
Mm, I like that word.
We have been desensitized
On every level.
on every level,
Walking around like zombies.
just unaware. And I don't even know if it's like zombies or it's like the scarecrow, you know.
Stuck in the field.
We just
Not going
stuck.
anywhere. Yeah.
We are stuck and stagnant, and um, we are being made to believe that that is the way.
Mm-hmm.
But what we are doing, and other podcasts and other thought leaders are doing, is showing people how to get through,
Mm-hmm.
showing people the way.
Mm-hmm.
We got to find our way back
Mm-hmm.
right now,
Right.
you know, as we're still moving forward, as we're still staying present.
Sure.
So,
All right. All right. Thanks, Tiff. All right. Everyone, thank you so much. I know that was a lot of golden nuggets, and as Tiffany calls them, pearls to put in your treasure box. We are going to continue the session in the Proactive is the Way group on Kinky Knots Cafe's Facebook page. Thank you so much for joining us. As always,
thank you guys.
yeah, at the end, we wanted to, of course, highlight our music choice. Let's not.
Ooh, you know what? That was I didn't know, who she was. I know her name, but I didn't know who she was. But I really, really like that song. I was listening to it over and over and over again, but I was trying to give it an R&B. I was just like, I can't sing this because I don't have the R&B.
Do that. Oh, see, I wanted Tiffany to sing. So as that we shared last week, we're lovers of music, and to wrap up our month, we wanted to prepare also for our weeks ahead. Um, we are going to choose a song at the end that kind of correlates with what we've been discussing. And my song choice was My Future by Billie Eilish. And I asked Tiffany to sing this, but she's not going to sing it. So I came prepared. I was like, she ain't gonna sing it. She ain't. So I just wanted to highlight some of the words within this particular song because it really spoke to me about designing my future, designing my life, and really being a bit selfish in the process. Because it's so important that we do take the time, we close the door, and we really get down into the nitty gritty about who we are, what do we want, what type of value is this going to bring to me and my family, etc. And so I'm just going to quote a couple lines here. In her song, she says, can't you hear me? I'm not coming home. Do you understand? I've changed my plans because I'm in love with my future. Can't wait to meet her. And I'm in love, but not with anybody else. Just want to get to know myself. But I'm in love with my future, and you don't know her. And I'm in love, but not with anybody here. I'll see you in a couple years. And so that really spoke to my heart because that's where I am today.
It's dynamic.
Yeah, I'm not seeking love from a relational perspective. I'm seeking love within myself. I
Mhm.
want to show myself that I can love myself enough to take the time to develop myself so that others will see that. And when they see that I love myself, they will be more receptive to loving me. All right, folks, that's a wrap. Join us in 2 weeks as we embark on new conversations about getting our mind loaded and ready. Next month, we will feature Atomic Habits by James Clear. We will focus on the state of the mind and how do we increase our capability to develop good habits more effectively and break bad ones. We look forward to you joining us. If you would like to get a jump start and read the book in preparation for our discussions, we have included in the description where you can pick up a copy of the book. To access this replay or learn more about Kinky Knots Cafes, Proactive is the Way, please visit www.kinkyknotscafe.com. Proactive is the way, my friends. Take good care.
Peace.